Alright, so we're out here at the customer's house, and I've been wanting to make a video on this once I found one that I could explain and show it to you. So in this situation, the pump down in the well has got a leak somewhere, whether it be in the drop pipe or it be at the fitting that connects to the pump, or the check valve or the pump itself. Now if you notice, I'm showing 50 psi, but my contacts are closed. So the pump itself can't build any more than 50 psi. So if you look here, I'm pulling 4.71 amps. Now typical amp draw on a 1/2 horsepower is like 6 amps. So what that's telling me is it's not having to work hard to build the amps up higher. Typically if the water level was down, the pump would be struggling to lift water from that depth, and the amps would be in turn higher because it was working harder. Now, we have a disconnect box here, so what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and kick this disconnect off, and you'll see the amps drop, and you'll also watch this gauge. If there wasn't a water leak in the well, then the pressure on the gauge wouldn't slowly drop down. Now, we have the main shutoff up to the house off, so we know water's not going anywhere. Now, a test that you can do at home to determine if there's a leak in the well, right now, the water is trying to get sucked back down in the well. But a quick way of testing that is opening your drain here, and you heard that suction. Put your thumb over it, and it's trying to suck air back into the pipe, back down into the line. So you can hear that. So what it's doing now, because you presented an area for air to go back in the system, it's allowing all the water to drain back down into the well that is inside of the drop pipe that goes down. So let's go ahead now, we're going to go ahead and disconnect our wires, test for power, make sure that all the power's off, and then we're going to go ahead and pull this pump out, and I'll show you exactly where the leak is. We're either going to find it on the drop pipe near the pump, or the fitting that connects the pump to the pipe. Sometimes the fittings can unthread themselves if the installer didn't tighten it, but we'll find out here shortly. Okay, so we've pulled out the majority of it. I wanted to show you what we were going to find. Not too terribly deep. Here it comes. Okay, see right here? That is a, oh look, it blew apart. So they never tightened the clamps. So what ended up happening here is they didn't use quality all stainless steel clamps. And I've stressed that in multiple of my videos that your clamps must be all stainless steel, because sometimes the band will be, sometimes the clamp will be, but the bolt won't. Now in this case, the bolt itself, the thing that you turn with your nut driver, it was not all stainless steel, and it rotted out. So that is what ended up causing their issue. But their pipe here is the lowest quality black roll pipe that they make, which is 100 psi. If you can see how thin that pipe is, it's not good at all. Now this pump is extremely old. It still has the old lightning arrestor on the bottom. It's a red jacket pump. Let's see if we can find a code date on it somewhere. Yeah, 96. So it is a 96 model. So she's been in there working for quite some time. And here is some of their splices. They never put a coating around the ground wire. Here is another issue. When they pulled it back, you see that? It's exposed copper. It's been exposed its entire life. Someone grabbed it and tore it, and probably did that with a knife, and they just didn't know what they were doing. So that's one issue. Another issue is they didn't really tape this to the pipe. They used hole centering devices, but they neglected to use black electrical tape more frequently. They have some here, but I like to tape mine about every 3 to 4 feet. So what will end up happening is we'll find some more bad wire. Oh look, so they've already had it go bad once, and they extended it here. And then if we continue on, we actually run into another area where they did it again. There's another wire splice there. So inevitably the system is going to get all brand new wire. I'm going to suggest brand new pipe as well, since this is a very thin. Let's see. Trying to see if they have a pressure. Yeah, right here. So pressure, 100 PSI. So this is probably in there at 180 foot, which 180 foot times half PSI per foot, you're at 80 PSI just on the depth. And then you're at, oh wow. So they had an inline here, a brass inline, and these clamps are bad as well. So this is basically an installer who bought all his stuff from Lowe's, and you know, he knew just enough to get them water. But the system was originally put in, the well was dug by my company, but the pump system was not put in by us. It was put in by a farmer who had this all decked out as a farm at one time. And then about 5 years ago, that house was put here. The well pump was already in the well, and we had to come here and basically convert the system from being, you know, farm use to household use. So the only thing we did, they didn't want us messing with the pump at that time, which they should have, or we wouldn't be back here. They just wanted to spend the least amount of money. So we just updated the tank to a modern tank. We did all of the electrical system to where that would pass code. So I basically, you know, got that all set up, and then we went up top where the last yard hydrant was, and we disconnected it and ran that into the house, and that fed the house. So now the area where it was saved and skimped on money has become the problem. So we're gonna go ahead now. I'm gonna go talk to the homeowner and see what they want me to do to fix it. Now on this system, you notice that it blew the clamps off and it blew the pipe off as to why, you know, they were having the air and the water and the low pressure issue. But a lot of times what you'll find is these fittings will crack right here where they're seamed together, where the large part meets the small part, and you'll get a crack and it'll be spraying out water. It'll provide your house with like 30 pounds of pressure, but it won't build up enough to kick the switch off. And another situation is you can have this thin wall pipe here, or any pipe for that matter. The pipe itself can split. Sometimes you'll get large vertical splits in it, and typically it's where it was close to the pump, because when you're at your pump is where you're going to get your highest amount of pressure, and you're going to get heat from the motor itself. So the motor itself will actually get warm, and in turn get the water to become warm. And once the water gets warm, then the pipe becomes pliable, and then the pipe becomes pliable, it's more easy for it to burst. So if you pull yours out, having similar situations as to why it brought you to this video, check your pipe, make sure you don't have any leaks coming out of it, and look within the first like 10 to 20 feet of where the pump is, and check to see if you have any splits in your pipe or any old areas where somebody may have kinked it that's leaking. And check right here at the top of your pump. Some pumps will actually rot out in this area. Some will have a brass head or a metal head that will corrode out, and then other fittings can rust out. The galvanized fittings will actually corrode from the inside out, and the plastic fittings will actually break right here. So this situation, it was clamps. Your situation may be slightly different, but I just went over all three possible scenarios. So just when you pull yours out, check those areas. So I just spoke with the customer. They decided that they were going to go with the full workup. So we got a new pump, new pipe, new wire, update, complete system. Here we are. We've got our new 1/2 horsepower pump put on, new wire going in, a few hole centering devices, and we're setting it at 140 foot. The old one was at 150. This well only makes 4 gallons per minute. Basically a 1/2 horsepower, 10-gallon minute pump has a maximum operating depth of 140 foot. So that's why we're going to set it there. I'm gonna go ahead now, hook up my wire and do the whole workup. I'll show you when it's done. If you want a step-by-step tutorial on well pump installation, check out my channel. There is a 20-minute video on exactly how to do this yourself, and I go over the full workup on it. So if you want, check that video out on my well pump Q&A playlist. All right, so I've got the complete pump system done. Quick once over. I put 2 all stainless steel clamps here. I went ahead and tightened them down, and then I wrapped them with tape just to help protect them from the water. Then I did a candy cane all the way up to where my wire splice is, And then I did a solid wrap around my wire splice. I went ahead and put one of these hole centering devices here, which is about 3 feet from the pump. I put one about another 15 foot up, and then another one about 20 foot above that. I don't like using the rubber snubbers. Some people like them. This situation is not needed. We're gonna go ahead now, put this chlorine down in the well to sanitize it. We're gonna drop that pump in. You only need about 3 ounces for every 100 foot, and this well's 190 foot, so it only needs about 5 or 6 ounces. It's always good to chlorinate your well every couple of years. In she goes. Now the wire is taped to the pipe about every 3 or 4 feet. That keeps the wire nice and taut against the pipe, where when it hangs down in the well, it doesn't rub against the rock wall of the well. Now some jobs require PVC drop pipe just due to the area and how deep the water static level is, but in my region, black roll pipe is just too simple not to use. PVC pipe, hanging a pump on it, requires a crane to pull it out, and especially if they're glued joints, then those pipes are basically one-time installs. If you install PVC drop pipe and your pump is on PVC, you might as well call a well company and they'll have to come out and use a crane to pull it out. Now all we got to do is hook it back up. Now while you have your system off, for whatever reason that you're doing, it's a good time to go ahead and check the air pressure in the tank. Now your switch may be a 30-50 or it may be a 40-60. If you look underneath the cover and see in the top corner, it says cut on 40. Depending whatever your cut on number is, your tank needs to be 2 to 5 PSI below that. So since this one says 40, it needs to be less than 40. And here we wrote 38. So let's go ahead and check our air pressure in our tank. And it needs to be at 38, which is 2 PSI below the cut on. When we read that, it says 38.1, so it's beautiful. It's perfect. It's been here 3 years and hasn't lost any air. Now, if you have a 30-50 switch, your tank pressure needs to be at 28. And if it's a 20-40 switch, you need 18 PSI in your tank. But typically those are old switches and just aren't around anymore. But you can't check your air pressure in your tank if you have any water on the system. So you always have to have your breaker off, and you always have to have the system emptied. All right, the wellhead is completely plumbed back up. I'm gonna go ahead now and flip their breaker on. Get all the air out. I'll go ahead and close this off. Make sure we ain't got no drips. Waiting for the pressure switch to click. And there it goes. It clicked off.
The gauge was stuck at like 30.
Yeah, I think the gauge had frozen in the past. I'm gonna go ahead now and turn the house on. Now they have water. I see a little bit of seepage right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and take my clamp wrench and tighten that up. Where's my clamp wrench at? There it is. And see, this is the problem. When you install things, you don't think about other things being in the way. Hey, will you give me another stainless steel clamp? I'm just going to add one to it. So basically, I just went ahead and I'm going to add another clamp to the bottom of this. Because I can see a little bit of seepage. You can see it, that a little bit of glossiness right there. No more leak. All right, all set. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed the video today. We're all done. We're about to go hand the customer the bill and get on out of here, head to the next job. But if you have any questions, feel free to comment. Comments are always live. I'm there to help anybody out. If you want a list of quality products that we use, check the description box below, and I've got all quality products listed down below. They're not cheap, but you can tell from this situation here, use cheap clamps and you'll end up melting, and you'll end up having to pull them out for the same reasons. So don't buy cheap products and you won't get a long life out of them. Buy quality products, you'll get a long life out of them. Thank y'all for watching. See y'all later.